The annual CITIC CLSA Investors Forum begins in Hong Kong today, bringing together senior executives and investors to discuss top issues from geopolitics to the macro environment. Our next guest is one of the speakers at the forum, and joining us now is Republican pollster Frank Luntz, who's the CEO at FIL. Frank, really great to have you with us. And, you know, we talk about there's really not much between the two candidates if you take a look at the polling over the past few weeks, right? The question for Kamala following the DNC was always whether she was going to be able to maintain that momentum. Is that what you're seeing?
That's exactly what I'm seeing. And in fact, I waited to the CLSA Investor Forum to discuss some of the latest focus groups that we've done and the polling that we've done. And what we find is it only matters in 7 states. So let me give you a preview of what I'm going to be saying. Those 7 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, and western states, Nevada and Arizona. That's all that matters. And there's 5% who are undecided right now. And basically, they don't like either candidate. They reject Trump because of his attitude and his persona. And they reject Harris because they don't know enough about her. They want to know more of the details. And they're waiting for this debate tomorrow night. Trump on one side, Harris on the other. They want to see the comparison, and that's when they're going to make their decision. Tomorrow night will be the most important day of the entire campaign. And I, like tens of millions of Americans, are be tuning in to see whether Donald Trump can keep quiet and whether Kamala Harris has the details that the public wants.
Out of those handful of critical states, how do you rate Pennsylvania? Because we've seen both parties really doing very specific, strategic outreach in Pennsylvania. Is it going to come down to this state? And do you think these strategies are working?
If I'm asked one state to focus on, it is Pennsylvania. And in fact, I'm going to be spending a lot of time there over the next 60 days because it matters that much. And the key vote are people who live paycheck to paycheck. I know that on this show, you focus on jobs, you focus on interest rates, you focus on the economy. There's one issue that Pennsylvania cares about more than any other, and it's not inflation, it's affordability. Food and fuel, housing and health care. Which candidate is going to bring down prices to give the public the ability to afford the house they want, the health care they deserve, and the food and fuel that they absolutely positively need? Pennsylvania is ground zero for this election.
Frank, the very first time that we ever spoke was actually in Hong Kong, and that was leading up to the 2016 presidential elections. And I remember you were telling me about how ingenious these red MAGA caps were, how really Trump was bringing this new energy to the Republican Party. Tell us a little bit about how much he's changed the Republican Party at a time when we're also seeing lifelong Republicans breaking with Donald Trump himself.
Well, the entire political ground has shifted. It's an earthquake. That you have people who are voting Republican now that have never, ever considered doing so. Young African-American men that used to be 90% Democrat. Trump is now getting 30% of them. Workers in unions, not the government unions, not the education unions, but other unions are considering voting Republican for Trump for the first time ever. Similarly, the Democrats, when Harris became the nominee, young women were so excited and so enthralled and so passionate because they did not have a candidate to vote for, and now they do. So you've got this shifting that's going on both sides, which is why this election is so darn close. And you can't call it right now because it's one thing to support a candidate. It's another to actually take the time to go out and vote. There was a time when Trump had a 10-point advantage over Joe Biden on definite voting, on the actual participation. Now, arguably, Harris has the advantage over Trump in turning out her vote. But we will see in 60 days.
Frank, looking at the election campaign unfolding in the U.S. and the big focus on the Harris campaign on joy and bringing back this joy when it comes to politics, it makes me reminisce about perhaps Barack Obama's message of hope. Can she capture sort of the middle of the road voters that are really undecided between two parties if she gets some of those more sensible policies that could also resonate with moderate Republicans?
So that's the key question, and I would reframe it a little bit, because I don't think joy excites people, excites your base. It excites those who already support you. And Trump is saying that we need to make these changes, that the last 3.5 years have actually made things worse, not better. In the end, the key question that will decide this election is quite simple. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? That is the question that Donald Trump needs to ask at the beginning of the debate and at the end of the debate. And for Harris, do you want the same chaos that we've had 4 years ago? Do you want to bring it back today? Because voters have had enough of that. They're genuinely challenged. They're challenged when they wake up in the morning, when they go to sleep at night, paycheck to paycheck. 23% of America, higher in Pennsylvania than any other state. Can the candidates win the paycheck to paycheck voters? Those are the ones who matter. There are millions of them in Pennsylvania and many more millions across the country. It's the candidate not that has joy or not that's seeking to revenge. It's the candidate that can address that concern. Can I make it through the day? Can I make it through the week, the month, the year? That's the candidate that wins in November.
So this doesn't hinge, the result doesn't hinge as much on enthusiasm and therefore turnout as much as actual, specific policy detail.
Yes, it does. The turnout is important. But for Harris, her challenge is that the public still doesn't feel like they've got enough detail. They want a detailed plan of action from her. And for Trump, he has to show that he can keep his anger in check because they support Trump's policies on inflation and immigration more than Harris. But they like Harris and they like her persona and her approach more than they like Trump. If the election is about issues, Trump wins. But the problem is he makes it about persona, so he's his own worst enemy. For Harris, she has to prove that she's got the details that gets the public to trust her, but she's not told us enough of where she stands, so that's her weakness, which is why tomorrow night's debate is so important.
Frank Luntz, good to have you back, founder and CEO at FIL, joining us actually on this side of the world in Hong Kong.